How to Create a Glitch Monologues Season 35 Chapter 4. This is Season 35 of How to Create a Glitch in the Matrix Monologues Episode 4. In this episode, we will be talking about how archetypal alignments can produce affirmation or negation of the impulses of a given plate. We will also be talking about how the tonic functions to generate the affirmational narratives of the other in a closed social system. To start out, it was explained how the plate of the face represents internally held narratives which are affirmed and acted upon. It was also explained how the plate of the voice represents narratives which are affirmed internally but negated externally. What we failed to explain is how archetypal alignments fit into the picture. The higher phrases the lower. This means that if the plate of the voice is expressing multiplicity, it entails a contextual meaning and affirmation of an internal impulse, which is then negated externally. The pressure, or force, created by the higher plate, in this case, the plate of the face, arises out of the pressure, so to speak, coming down upon it, from the higher plates, namely the emotional and archetypal. How do I explain this? Imagine you are sitting in a bar. Imagine you have had a few drinks. The people around you are talking loudly. There is a common narrative which forms part of the tonic's directed attention. This narrative seeks to affirm the impulse which you internally affirmed but externally negated. But there is also a pressure from the archetypal. It preserves the negation of the plate of the voice, first by cutting it off externally from the affirmational component of the other towards the external, and secondly, by supplanting the internally affirming narrative with a negating one. Practically, what this means is, in the plate of the voice, one of your multiplicitous voices represents a negating narrative, internally, and, externally, to counteract the affirmatory external narratives which come from the other. This is caused by the substitution of affirmatory narratives from the archetype, which supplant the affirmatory narratives of the external other. Now, where do these external narratives come from which are affirmatory? The answer is, from the tonic, in a closed social system. By drawing attention to his actions, to his subjecthood, a tonic directs the attention of the group, generating synchronization between your narratives and his, or hers. In other words, as an example, let's say a person A is seated in a bar, he generates narratives corresponding to the plate of the voice, which are affirmatory to your impulses, which are negated. He then, unconsciously, directs your attention, according to the pathway which is affirmatory to that narrative. Through this synchronization, he generates a positive feedback loop corresponding to the externally negated impulses. As time progresses, those impulses can't help but find expression because of the consistent reinforcement. But there are other options. These are 1. Controlling one's attention and posture through focusing, manipulating the plate of the face and posture, to limit the intersection points between his directed attention and your unconscious attention. 2. Generating an internal narrative, through exegesis, or orthogonal thought, which creates an internal feedback loop, negating the affirmatory impulses of the other. As one limits the contact points between one's unconscious attention and the conscious attention of the tonic, the result is the gradual internalization of narratives into an internal stream, which is reflective of the archetypal alignment and the exegesis or orthogonal thought chain, producing an internally negating feedback loop. That's the end of the podcast for today. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment and subscribe.